am doing a last minute solo episode. I ended up having a guest having to reschedule last minute. Life happens. Totally understand that. But I was all set up, had my light up and open and ready, and was just ready to go and record. And so I figured, you know what? I have a little, what would you call that? Like Rolex of solo episodes to do. And one of those being a recipe episode. And I wanted to break this down a little more because one, I know you guys really enjoy recipes. It's nice sometimes to have someone walk you through a recipe step by step. Like I said, it's like calling your mom and asking her, like, what does this actually mean? And this one is for the easy sandwich bread recipe. I figured this would be a great episode to follow up on after we did the non-toxic lifestyle, because I did mention this sandwich bread recipe in that episode. And since then, I have had people asking me, can we please have that recipe? This recipe will be listed on thereckoningpodcast.com, and I will have it outlined so that you can print it out, you can save it to your phone, however it is you do it. And this recipe is one of those too. I actually just made it last night. It's one of those, I think you heard Nicole and I talk. If you want a sourdough recipe, Nicole has a sourdough recipe that she shares on that episode. But Nicole and I were talking about there's something really special, and I can't quite pinpoint what it is about making your family bread. And my boys now are all on board for this bread. They're always asking, can we get more bread? So usually on Saturdays or Sundays, I'll go through and make this recipe. I like it because you don't need fancy machinery. You don't need hours and hours and days and starters. This requires few ingredients. And once you buy these ingredients, you can usually make, I would say, a few, let's see, this recipe calls for 2 loaves. And I would think I can make probably 6 loaves of bread out of this. We love that. We love that kind of recipe when you just have stuff on hand for a while. Another reason to love it. Plus, you know what's inside of it. So, like I said, it only takes a couple hours to make, and the hours in that are really just letting it rise. And should I go get I'll show you guys what it looks like. We just cut into this morning. Rivers wanted a hole in one. Pause, please. Okay, well, this was a sporadic episode, so I had to run and grab it. This is the sandwich loaf. You can see I cut 2 slices off of it. We just keep these bags on hand. If you guys have great like reusable sandwich bread bag suggestions, I would love to hear that. But so far we have these. It smells so good. I'm going to open it up so you can see it. If you're on YouTube, you can take a look at it. Some ASMR for listening. So here is the loaf. That's the end cap that I always just keep on. And then you can see the inside of it and a beautiful crumb crust. And I wish you guys could smell this. I'm holding it up to the mic as if you could smell it. But it's just that quintessential bread smell. You know, fresh baked bread. It has like a beautiful bounce back to it. It's dense. It holds. So there's sandwich bread. And I'm going to teach you guys how to make this. It's super easy. Okay, so let's get into it. As you saw, it makes big loaves. I would say you get just as much or more slices out of this bread. Obviously, you get to decide how thick you want it, which is really fun for like French toast. That's one thing that they did request this weekend, is making like a good thick French toast with it. And it's perfect for sandwiches. You can use this with any type of flour that you like, as far as I'm meaning, like if you want to do a wheat flour, you could use that over your all-purpose flour. So it does make 2 loaves for this recipe. And all you need is a glass bowl. You need obviously your measuring cups, and then you'll need a utensil to stir with, and then you'll need your bread pans. I have 2 of these bread pans. These are 9x5 bread pans. I have 2 of these. And that is it. It's so nice and easy. As far as ingredients, let's get into making it. Again, the recipe will be down below if you need it, or if you want me to DM it to you, let me know and I'll send you a DM. Okay, 4 ingredients. You will need 2 cups of water, 1/4 a cup of honey or sugar, 1.5 tablespoons of active dry yeast, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 1/4 a cup of avocado oil, and 6 cups of flour. Here's what you do. Easy peasy. In a large bowl, combine your water, your honey or sugar, whatever your sweetener is, and yeast. Set that aside until it starts to bubble. So at this point, you can smell the yeast. It smells like beer, and you'll see it's got a nice foam on top. Once it's at that phase, add your salt, your oil, and stir that together. While that's bubbling, while that's setting aside, I like to take and measure out my 6 cups of flour because I've found 6 cups of flour is a lot of flour and I don't want to get lost and add not enough or too many. So I will then have that set aside. Just a pro tip. So you've let the yeast rise, you've added the salt, oil to the bowl, and you're stirring that. Now, 1 cup at a time or a little at a time, you will add the flour and you'll stir that in. And you definitely want to add this in slowly and stir because I'm telling you, this is where you start questioning if you added too much flour because you are going to be using those muscles, okay? A little flex. You're going to be using those muscles. So 1 at a time. By the time you get to, I would say, the last 2 cups, so when you're adding in your 5th and 6th cup of flour, you're going to be thinking, I for sure measured this wrong. No, bitch. Keep stirring, keep kneading. At that point, the last, I would say, 2 cups, I'm getting my hands dirty, and I am kneading that stuff in. And just trust the process. I promise you, trust the process. You need 6 cups of flour. It's well worth it. So now you've added all 6 cups of flour. You've worked through it. You're like, okay, I trust this. It was 6 cups of flour. We're fine now. Then you're going to knead the dough on a lightly floured surface until smooth. I would say do this for about 5 minutes. And again, just using your muscles. I personally like getting my hands dirty and using my muscles. While I'm kneading it, I'm washing that bowl that I just used because I don't like having a whole bunch of dishes. And I have 1 great glass bowl. I'm washing that bowl out. Then from there, after I've kneaded the dough, I'm going to place the dough in an oiled bowl. So you'll need to add additional oil into the bowl. I did not include the extra oil in the ingredients. And then you're going to turn and coat the dough so that everything's oiled. Then you'll cover and let it rise until it's doubled in size. This takes about an hour depending on how warm your house is. This is River's favorite part. I always holler for him when it's time or when he sees it. After it's doubled in size, it's going to be so airy, so fluffy, and you're going to take out all your anger and you're going to punch the dough and it deflates. It's very satisfying. This is when the kids love getting involved. After spending months on the mountain, hunting, soaking up all that natural sunlight, the days are now getting shorter and colder. I don't even have to tell you this. I personally have experienced that this time of year affects my vitamin D levels to be low, which impacts things like my mood and energy levels, just to name 2 things. I'm preparing to keep my vitamin D levels where they should be with the help of Mountain Op's vitamin D3 plus K2 gummies. These are delicious strawberry gummies that are a convenient way to help you get more vitamin D intake every day. Adding this to my daily routine has helped me conquer my days, whether I'm on the mountain, in the gym, working, or being a spouse and parent. You can get your Mountain Ops vitamin D3 plus K2 gummies at mountainops.com today. A few of our favorite other things in the cooler months that we love from Mountain Ops are their down jackets, their merino wool collections, their hoodies, the Slumber cider and salted caramel drinks. I love sipping on a warm drink in the winter. And you know we love our deep, restful, rejuvenating sleep. Hydration is also super important in the wintertime too. So be sure to check out their pineapple hydrate. It's the one back there. This is their new flavor and it seriously tastes like a Dole Whip. My kids love this hydrate. And because I just looked back there and I realized what else I have back there, Ignite. Need I say more? Energy and focus. To shop our favorites and help donate a meal to a child in need, go to mountainops.com and use our code BRITT, that's BRITT, for 20% off. Again, that's mountainops.com and use our code BRITT, BRITT, for 20% off. After you punch the dough, then lightly flour your surface again. And you're going to knead the dough for 3 minutes until you get it really, really nice and smooth. I also like to do some of those movements where you like push the dough away from you and then bring it back, push and bring back, which is my personal preference. After 3 minutes of kneading, you're going to shape them into loaves and then you're going to place your 2 loaves into your 2 9x5 loaf pans. You'll cover these pans and let it rise for about 45 minutes. And you'll see, for me personally, it will be coming up over the top. Like it's definitely doubled in size and it's looking like a loaf that's ready to go in. It is up and over the top of this pan. While you're letting this rise, I like to preheat my oven as soon as I'm like done rolling my loaves of dough, have those covered. I preheat my oven at the same time and stick these on top of the oven so that they can rise. And then when they've all rose, you stick them uncovered and bake for 350 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes. And then you remove the pans from the oven and your house is smelling like a delicious loaf of bread. Let them cool, and then you can pull out the bread, and I just let it cool down on the counter. I usually let it cool down, I don't know, like 30 minutes in the pan. Last night I actually let this one just cool down completely in the pan and it did great. But I'll usually just leave it out. That's the hardest part, I'm telling you, is waiting to cut into the bread. Usually when I pull it out of the oven, the boys are like, bread's done, and they come cut. If you cut into it, it like deflates and it's squishy. You definitely want to give it at least an hour to sit and cool down before you cut into it. And that makes 2 sandwich bread loaves. Obviously, you could cut this in half if you want, but if I'm making them, then I like making 2, especially where I have 2 growing boys and they're always making sandwiches, or like I said, we make those holes in one. Some people call them eggs in a basket. So I really like having this bread on hand. Obviously, bread's just nice to have on hand. I notice I like keeping it in the fridge personally, just because where it doesn't have any added preservatives or anything like that. I just find that it keeps well in the fridge, and I would say it lasts about a week if we get it to last that long. But yeah, like I said, that is the easy sandwich bread recipe. It has minimal ingredients, all ingredients that I feel good about, and it's super easy to make. It's fun to get the family involved, and I also just really enjoy the fact of, one, it's overall cheaper than buying bread at the store, and 2, I already said this, but I know what's inside of it and I feel good about the ingredients that are inside of this bread. The recipe, again, will be listed on thereckoningpodcast.com, or if you're listening to this on audio, you can DM me and I'll send you the link to the recipe, or you can swipe up from where you're listening and there will be a link that you can click that will have this recipe. I'll have step-by-step instructions, and then also I will have, what will I have for you? I don't know, step-by-step instructions and the recipe. That is it. That is my quick little solo episode that I had put aside for a day to come in, pop in, and share something with you guys. If you make this, I would love for you guys to tag us on social media. I'm at Brittney.Long or at The Reckoning Podcast. It would mean so much to see. And I would just, it's so fun to share recipes with people and see that their families are enjoying this recipe, and just knowing that you're, I don't know, sharing it. There's something, I don't know. I think it's like what we're meant to do. Share recipes and help each other out. If you guys have anything that you end up adding to it or doing with it, I would love to hear that. I've thought about maybe adding in like cinnamon sugar kind of a swirl could be fun. And I could make like, I even think you could make like a jalapeno cheddar loaf, but we're just keeping it simple. Like you heard me say on the episode with Nicole, my boys love sandwiches and they prefer this sandwich bread over making the sourdough. That's more for like grilled cheeses and stuff. This is my easy bread recipe. All right, enjoy your bread.